They have stolen the heart from inside. Not fine.
Hello, my name is Crystal Beach. I'm Down with a Heart, and I'm on YouTube and Rumble channels. And this is Miraculous Healings in the story of my life. I have 6 YouTube channels total. There's Down with a Heart, got notes. Down with a Heart, Down of Neville Goddard, Sovereignty in the Matrix, Wealth is a Mindset, Advocate for Divorced Moms, and Winnie's World. And I just want to give a little background before I get into all the healings that I've went through. Well, I don't have time to do all of them, but I will do the main ones that led me to do all these channels. And you're probably wondering, where's the content? It's coming in bits and pieces. As I'm going through it, I'm writing it down. And just every minute there has been challenges and amazing healing. I can just say that. Just for a background, I grew up Presbyterian in a small church in a small town in Wisconsin. I didn't have a lot of exposure to other religions growing up. It wasn't until I really went through some major major things in my life that it really changed my whole being. So I just want to say, if you're a different denomination, I'm not a particular denomination of Christian. And I also believe that no one has a monopoly on the truth. The Bible has laws, statutes, commandments, and some people take this extremely literally. And as a disciple of Neville Goddard, I've been called that through the Akashic records. I believe there's a more spiritual meaning to the Bible. And actually, I'm actually going to ask Yeshua, my spirit guides, angels, Neville Goddard, and Dolores Cannon to come in and just to talk and help me as I explain all that's happened in the last, for me, it's been about 10 years. And it really started back in, it was 2014. My brother-in-law was dying of stage 4 colon cancer. And this was kind of the end of the battle. He had a major surgery and they basically took out all of his organs. And he was convulsing. The family at the time had a meeting and they were trying to decide what they were going to do because they didn't want him to suffer anymore. And so they decided to bring in a Catholic church. He was Catholic. the Catholic Church came in, the priest, to give his last rites. And that's really where things really started for me, because he had been convulsing all day. We didn't know if he was in pain or if he was even aware that, of what was going on. And there was about 20 of us in the room, and they gave the last rites, and it was like a blink, and the air just completely changed, and all of a sudden he was at peace, and we all went home because we were like, oh, he's gonna sleep, or he'll pass away. We didn't know what was gonna happen. And I went home that night and I had a dream. I was in this bubble floating over what seemed almost like, I don't know, Oz is how I describe it. And it was just a wonderful feeling. I had the impression that he had passed when I woke up. But when we got back to the hospital, he was sitting up in his bed, and his organs had all been taken out, and it was just miraculous that he was even alive. And he didn't remember anything that had happened the previous day, and he lived for another 3 weeks, and there were many miracles related to just him being alive in the hospice. But the dreams didn't stop from that point for me, because the next night I had another dream. The next night I was just in this blindingly white light, and I would describe it as I didn't know what was going on or where I was. And I just asked, why am I here? And the voice back to me said, you are here to heal. And I woke up, my hands were so warm. I was just in awe. And I had so many questions, like, am I here to heal others? Am I here to heal myself? The answer came pretty quickly. I was here to heal my own self. And through the information that has come through for me, it's all been about me healing in order to understand that we create every moment, and as we create every moment, what we heal within, we experience in our world. And I show that in various ways. I plan to show it through multiple channels, as I stated before. So fast forward, multiple dreams, and all of a sudden, I was driving in my car one day. It was after work. It was just a regular day. And all of a sudden, it was like the dashboard had blinked, and I looked down, and it was 55,555 miles. It was 5:55 p.m. It was 55 degrees. I was going past 255-mile-per-hour road signs. And again, it was just like a flicker of my dashboard. And so from that point, things just were like a bullet train. I was pregnant soon after that, and I had this like insatiable need to read. And it was like books I never heard of, I had never thought of. I never really got into spiritual books until, all this happened. Um, and I think the first year I read about 250 books, and they were all related to, they all started out as Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, and which, he always channeled the akashic records, and then Neville Goddard. And I didn't even really understand what they were talking about when I first started reading Neville. It was really hard to, I will say, let go of the programming from being Presbyterian. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that religion. I'm just saying that that's the only school of thought that I was exposed to at that point. So it was a little hard for me to understand what Neville was trying to say, or what he was even talking about. And that led me down a whole different rabbit hole of just like looking at, what I once knew versus his training. So fast forward, I was pregnant, I had my daughter, and I think I was a little bit overwhelmed with everything going on. And I know my husband at the time was also, I was with him for 12 years total. We were married for 5, and he was, I think he was going through his own stages of grief at that time. And things just seemed extremely heavy. They were just so hard to bear, and I felt like I was just taking on the world. I was the main breadwinner. I had this huge corporate job. I was an accountant, and just I was managing multiple people, and it was just a lot with a newborn baby. And I just knew that something wasn't right. And that led to a final night where it was a final night with my ex-husband. I ended up grabbing my daughter, was locked in the room. I called my neighbors for help. They didn't answer, and he left. I ended up going to the police station, and this is just me telling my story. There's many more details, but I'm just keeping it light. But the 2 policemen there were like, were you going to be a statistic, or are you going to file for divorce based on what just happened? And I decided I wasn't going to be a statistic, and I did file for divorce immediately. I never went back. So painful, so hard to watch. And we just, the bank account was just gone. And we had this beautiful life together. I mean, we had a house in a suburban area. It was just everything that, people always wanted in the Matrix. The family, the white picket fence, the corporate job, everything that you've been led to believe that you want. Sorry, I'm emotional. But through that divorce, I kept reading through all of this. And one of the books that came to me was Keys to the Kingdom, and then the second book, which was The Queen's Code. Both are by Alison Armstrong. And that's really the 33 videos that I've already made on Tao of the Heart. And that helped me really understand everything that Neville was teaching. And that truth is the violence that's created on this earth was first created within your mind. And that's really hard to accept. Your peace on this earth, on this plane, no matter what happens in your life. And the greatest truth in that is that you can create every moment, no matter what. There is a man named Viktor Frankl. He has a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He survived Auschwitz concentration camp, and it's his quote that says, there is a space between a stimulus and a response, and therein lies your freedom. And that always stuck with me, because as you go back and you realize every moment that you lived, you are the creator. And that works out in your relationships, that works out in your finances, any legal cases, every part of your life really reflects that. And so if you don't like your results in your life, then you can learn how to heal so that you can change those results. And that's really what I believe we're here to heal. I know people always talk about the 5D grid and how it's born through you. And that's kind of what's really happening when you embrace that truth. So Queen's Code, Keys to the Kingdom, and then Series of Healing. And I'm actually still going through, I just went through that material again, and it's completely changed again. Like, there are layers and layers as you go through this material. And if you keep working with it as you heal, then you go through the next layer of consciousness. And as you become conscious there, you again heal. And it's like an onion. And it just keeps manifesting in new ways. So after the divorce, I went through a series of past life regressions with a QHHT practitioner, I think they're called. His name was Joseph Siegworth. He's still in the Milwaukee area. And, you know, I never knew like what was going to happen or if it would even work. But in that process, as I was looking for a practitioner, I came upon a woman that had moved to England. And she then directed me to another woman, and her name was Rebecca Rose. And she started helping me channel the Akashic records. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But going back to the QHHT practitioner, I had one session. There were multiple healings with Jesus. I call him Yeshua, which is the Aramaic term. And yeah, there was 2 past lives that I went through. And the first one, I was a woman and I was dying on the beach. And I had been hit in the head and I could see like the blood coming out of my head. I know it's a little gory. Um, and all of a sudden my soul went up into the light. So it's a really short dream. And I didn't really know what it meant other than I was like, kind of a little bit floored that, like you go through this hypnosis and it works. Like I could see, like I remembered reading Edgar Casey's work and about how he would sometimes see this guy that looked like a librarian and he'd go in to whatever life in the library. But for me, it was kind of like I was sitting on like almost like a Ferris wheel cart, and as I was on this cart, there were lives on my left side, and I had to pick which life I was going to pick. Um, so after that life, then I was back on the cart picking the next life, and in the next life, um, I was also a woman. I had like blonde hair down to my butt, and I was on the beach with my family. And I had a husband and a son. And we're on the beach. We've got this beach ball, and it's like the 60s. And we get in the car, and all of a sudden I feel that my son in that life that I'm in the past life regression with is my father in my current life. So it's just kind of weird how there's like a link of past lives with the current life you're in. And anyways, we were hit head on by a garbage truck and I died instantly. And I could see my soul come out of my body and I was banging on the window, as watching as my family was trying to revive me. And again, my soul went up and into the light. And I didn't really know until maybe like a year later what the reasoning was for seeing those 2 lives. And it was really related to I was in this life and I was living with the fear that I was going to die. Like I wasn't going to get through stuff and I was going to die before I could do it. And that was a huge revelation for me in that I never really thought of the fact that I would be healing other lives in this life. So I don't know if you believe in past life regressions or if you're into that, but that was just my experience. And I also had another, maybe a year ago, past life regression with that same practitioner. And that was related to, it was more of a simple life. Like I had a simple life and I was a man in both of those regressions. Like the first time it was almost like I was in Ireland and it was like a simple life. I remember I had killed a deer for my family. We were cooking the deer and it was just like a normal life. We went through the whole life and it ended really interesting because the soul didn't leave the body right away. It didn't leave until the funeral, which the practitioner said usually that doesn't happen. Usually the soul leaves right away. So still trying to figure that one out. And then the second one was related to Egypt, and I have a lot of dreams related to Egypt. This one in particular, I was a priest and there was a war going on, and I was trying to protect the information. So I was like running through the pyramids with all these scrolls, trying to just trying to keep all the information hidden, which was interesting. I'd love to go to Egypt. I've never been there. So that's my experience with QHHT. And now I want to get into the teachings with Jesus, or as I call him, Yeshua. These are related to EMDR therapy. And through EMDR therapy, I've had multiple healings. The first one started out with me just laying in the wings of an angel. And I would describe the wings spanning probably like larger than a human. They're just huge. And in that healing, I had said that I asked for healing. And so there was like a party. It was like a party in heaven, and everyone's jumping and just like celebrating. And all of a sudden you could see a line of angels with trumpets. So that was the first one. The second healing, it was Jesus, and he came in to heal my heart, and he cut the ropes off my heart, and he sealed the wounds with light. And then the third healing, he sewed the wounds with just like a needle and thread, and then he sealed it with light. So just amazing healing. I can describe that I easily see Yeshua, like when I meditate. Just he's with me all the time. And there's always a sign that I get when Yeshua is near, and it's a flock of birds. It's usually, I don't know, 4 or 5. They're usually little birds. But I always know he's near when there's birds. It's weird. I don't know, but I mean that's very peaceful to see that, and I just had to let someone know that. Let's see what else. Just amazing dreams have come through. I haven't gotten into the akashic records channelings. This started back in 2019. Probably have about 4 channelings a year, and a lot of them are related to letting go of the programming of the matrix. And that's really related to my series related to the sovereignty in the matrix and wealth as a mindset. They talk all about understanding how the matrix works so that you can break the codes. For example, there was one channeling where I was under the pyramids and I had like this torch, and I went down like under the Sphinx, and I've got this torch, and all of a sudden it goes out, and I've got this book in my hand, and the book turns to dust, and all of a sudden the codes on the wall just light up. So it's all related to the coding in the matrix, which I kind of describe the matrix and what I've learned in the akashic sessions and how that really pertains to here on earth. For example, a legal battle might be a good example. So let's say you go into court and, whatever you're fighting. For example, I'm fighting in my divorce right now, related to stipulating for my daughter. I have 100% custody and placement, due to some of the things that have happened. And this is, I don't even know if I'm ready to talk about all this, but just little things come through about that, like understanding how the legal system really works and how there are higher laws that when you are in line with those laws, nothing stops you, no matter what's going on in the world. For example, and maybe this is too much to get into here, but just the little things that happen. I'm just thinking of like a traffic ticket. Let's say you get a traffic ticket and you have to pay your traffic ticket, and you have to pay it with the money that you earned from your job. Okay. Think about this. You had to have a name, you had to give a name in order to have that ticket. And that name carries you through life. But did you ever think about the fact that that name was given to you? It's a gift. And with that name, it's been titled, right? You have a birth certificate, for example, and that birth certificate is tied to a social security number. And again, there's all of that was set up when you were under 18. And when you take that and you use that through life, it's kind of like a transporting utility. That's really what it is, in order to move through commerce. And all crimes are commercial. So commerce is a traffic ticket. I mean, but the point is, and this is kind of the unraveling of the matrix, is realizing what you took on and what you consented to. Because that birth certificate was created when you were a minor. And even though your name is on that birth certificate, you are a living soul. You're not a piece of paper. So the piece of paper is representing you throughout commerce and throughout life. And if you unravel all that, you start to see how many times you consented, and then you start to see how you create your world. And for those of you that maybe have had financial struggles, for example, I know a lot of women go through that. And I'm planning to look into that and specifically isolate that on one of my channels, Advocate for Divorced Moms. But the point is that you are not a piece of paper. And if you are not a piece of paper, What does that really mean? What is that debt really to you? Now, it's different if you're saying that you are something that someone else created, but you're not. You were created by your mother. You weren't created by the system. You weren't created when the piece of paper was created. So there's a big difference between you, the live you, and the piece of paper. And the difference is that you're alive and the piece of paper is dead. And legally, that's kind of what's going on. And so unraveling all that is the understanding that you don't actually owe the debt. And it gets even deeper than that, because even though you want to pay the debt, let's say you get a traffic ticket, you would be paying with money from your job, right? Well, what is money? An example might be you pull out a dollar bill and you see that it says Federal Reserve note. And if you go into a Black's Law dictionary, specifically Black's Law fourth edition, 1968, you will see that money is not a note. It's not a banknote. So what are you exchanging your time for? You're exchanging your time for debt. And if you're exchanging your time for debt, what is backed by that debt? You. You are the creditor. You're not the debtor. You didn't create the debt. And you trying to pay the debt with debt is just an exchange, because a Federal Reserve note is just a promise to pay. If you really wanted to end that obligation, which is technically not your obligation because you didn't create the birth certificate that had the name that you told the officer you were the dead piece of paper, then that means that you can't really discharge or end the obligation, but you never are able to also own anything because you never have title to anything. They have the title because they created the title. They created the title when your parents told them that you were born. So that's a whole nother red pill. And I get into that in Sovereignty in the Matrix and Wealth is a Mindset. But the whole point in all that is you walk into a courtroom and you think that you understand the meaning of the words, but that's not true. If you go into the Black's Law and really look at the meaning of the words, it's a completely different language disguised as the English language. And that was all created going back to the Bible. A lot of it's coming back from Ecclesiastes. But it's a copy and it's a lower man-made law. And I guess the whole point in all this is that there are teachers out there that are looking to help people understand the system. And the point of understanding the system is understanding what you're creating and what you've taken on and how you create from what you take on from society. And some of it is people have good intentions. Like, it's not that your family doesn't have a good intention. It's just that they don't even understand what they've taken on. And for some people that will just go straight over their head. And for others, you'll be like, what? What is she talking about? Welcome to the Matrix. So that's related to everything. There's so much more. I hope you enjoyed listening to some of the healing, which I didn't even get into maybe a quarter of the healings, but those are just a taste of some of the healings that I have experienced. It's just a huge deal to get that off my shoulders and say it. Some of it my family doesn't even know about. And that's been on me because I don't really think that, well, in some ways, my family will get it. Not to say that they're, not intelligent. It's just that it's so beyond reality when you wake up. And granted, there is so much healing available once you do wake up. But I just want to say, for all the people that are maybe in my position, that, you're kind of in a hidden corner, off in your own little world, figuring all this out. And, I support you. I'd certainly love to hear your story. You can certainly message me. Again, I'm on YouTube, Rumble, and also on Truth Social. And I guess a lot of people ask, like, why Truth Social? I can tell you, this whole court battle with Trump has been, I can totally resonate with it just because of everything that I've seen in my dreams through akashic channelings and then healing. Just the whole court battle that he's going through, it really reminds me of the Bible. And it's in those challenges that there's so much healing, so much awakening for the collective. And, as we watch the great show, it brings you back to your own healing, I guess. Because we don't really have control over what happens. And that's the whole teaching of Yeshua, is to go within, and he's there to meet you. I can tell you that. And also, if you call in Neville, I've had multiple akashic sessions saying to bring in Neville. He's certainly come and helped me. I pray for him every day. And definitely he has a sense of humor, which I totally love. Yeah, so call him if you feel called, and both of them will meet you, and you don't have to pay to meet him. So with that being said, I think I'm going to sign off. Thank you for listening this far, and I look forward to publishing more content. Thank you. Have a great day.